Reality Awaits is the seventh studio album from The Strokes, acclaimed indie rock band formed in the early 2000s. Through a spate of industry connections, through their wealth, well-to-do families, they were able to get a pretty lucrative record deal straight off the bat. With RCA Records, they became a very early buzz band in the New York scene. As a result of this, before even becoming a recording band, and perhaps even before they had even made any concert appearances, there was a bunch of positive buzz around them before they even set foot on a stage. So the groundwork was laid for the Strokes to be successful, and all they had to do was sort of execute on this plan. They put out what is arguably the best album of 2001, Is This It? And probably one of the best debut albums of all time. It featured many indie rock staples such as Last Night, New York City Cops, Hard to Explain, Someday. That whole album really did push a lot of buttons and connected with a lot of people looking to lean to a more direct rock style. I think 11 tracks, 33 minutes. We're going back to a really pure, back to basics kind of way of making music. In the early 2000s, the garage rock revival was also adjacent to this too, with the advent of the Black Keys, the White Stripes, Yeahs, all sorts of other bands that were coming out around that time. And the Strokes tended to incorporate a garage rock sound into their group. The reason why a lot of people will know about acts like the Velvet Underground and Television is because of the Strokes, and that was certainly my entry point into that acclaimed stuff from the 70s and 60s and 70s, and especially the New York-centric sort of stuff there. So the Strokes are a big reason why I like sort of those bands, and I've become a big fan of Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground and things like that. They would then go on to strike while the iron's hot and make Room on Fire, which is also a phenomenal album with tracks like 1251, Reptilia. There was some great tracks there. They would then have a little bit of a gap and release First Impressions on Earth, which then expands on their sound, and here we have the sort of first of the little bumps in the road in terms of the Strokes discography, because basically, as much as I wanted the Strokes to expand on their sound, it seemed to me early on that if they tried to expand on it a little too much, it wasn't their strength to expand the sound. The album being, I think, a little over 50 minutes long and having the longer tracks, I don't think did it justice. I think it's still quite a good album. But this was the first instance in which I could sort of understand that the Strokes did what they did well, very well, but didn't do it enough. We then get sort of a 4 or 5 year gap between First Impressions on Earth and Angles, which I consider to be probably their weakest album. The Angles had a pretty good couple of singles like Undercover of Darkness and Machu Picchu, but apart from that, there wasn't a lot to like really. And by this time, it was 2013, and for me, I think the Strokes had become a band that I'd sort of exclusively listened to the first 2 albums of and didn't really think too much of the other stuff, and I had given it quite a good shake as well. Between that and Come Down Machine was in a way a little bit of a course correction, at least in my view. I thought there was some really good tracks on this album. It was a little bit more succinct, and I think the quality control over the track selection was a lot better. A lot of people would disagree with that and say that it is their worst album and their low point, but I don't believe it is. I actually think it's quite a strong release. Tap Out being probably one of their best tracks. And then so from there, Julian Casablancas has The Voids. He's doing that. Albert Hammond Jr. is doing his thing, and the other band members are doing a bunch of other stuff. So then we have a 7-year gap between Angles and what would become sort of a renaissance period for the Strokes in the 2020 release, The New Abnormal. I actually never intended to listen to it when it came out, but seeing as it was during a quarantine period and there was, not a lot else to do but listen to music, I sort of had not really much else to do, and a lot of people were telling me to listen to it because it was a return to form for them. At this time, I'd kind of turned my back on them a little bit just because of how much I loved the first 2 records and how little I liked the other stuff. But eventually I got around to listening to the new Abnormal, and it really was a revelation and a renaissance in their catalogue, and I'm so glad that it exists in a catalogue that is otherwise a bit uneven. So we have another 6-year gap, and Reality Awaits comes out, and there's not really a lot I can say about it other than the fact that the Strokes are trying to do something different again, and I'm still not quite sure what it is that they're doing and if I like it or not, which makes a review kind of redundant, really, doesn't it? The 2 singles that dropped, I can't say I was a huge fan of. Going Shopping and the other one. And to be honest, I can see that they're trying to do something different, and I'm still really on the fence about how I feel about the album. I think that the opening track is brilliant. I think it is a real slow burn. Dine and Dash is probably the greatest track on it. I think that will be in a top 20 songs, I think, in the Strokes. I can see it being a concert favourite, I can see it being a set list staple for them. And that's about it for me. I mean, I was quite reluctant to listen to this because of the singles and because of the auto-tune treatment of Julian's vocals. I think that they want to go down this path of doing that, and I completely respect it. But I don't know if it adds to the music, really. And I think it's just me wanting to be really stubborn in my views of it, I think. I think that's slightly overdriven, that muffled kind of laconic style that Julian is known for isn't here because it is treated with that effect. And for that reason, I think it turns me off of the project because I'm unable to isolate his vocals from anything else. There's some cool instrumentation actually happening here, and there's some cool synth sounds in this, but I don't know. I don't know whether one of the best bands of the last 25 years is the best band of the last 25 years. It makes me question a lot of things. I know it shouldn't really be that deep, but for an act so considered from myself, and I guess coming out at a time when I was 14 or 15, it was they were a pretty prominent group and made a lasting impression on me. And my life, I guess, I guess music you attach yourself to. You identify yourself by different things like your fashion and clothing and the way you think about things. Music is certainly a thing that you attach an identity to. I don't care what people say. I think that you do that. has such a cultural significance to us. People think that music doesn't have as much of a cultural impact as it used to, but I still think it does. I don't think it's a dying art form. I think it will just continue, even with the advent of AI music. I still think that people want humans to make music, humans to make art. For this reason, I'm not begrudging anyone from making any artistic choices whatsoever, but it's just in this case, I don't think it's for me. And I'm going to go back in and listen to it again, listen to it a few more times, and if I have anything more to say on that, I will. But I think for the time being, I've said pretty much a lot of nothing. And Reality Awaits will probably be the low point in their discography. However, I once thought that I would never listen to Angles again, and over the last 6 months, I've listened to Angles quite a bit, and I find more in it than I did the first time around when it was released all those years ago. So great art stands the test of time, and we'll see what happens with this. A lot of people really like it, and I love that for them. I love that they're getting something out of it, but I haven't really felt that with Reality Awaits, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to rank it. I don't think it's worth ranking at this point in time. I just found the instrumentation to be a little bit boring and uninspired. Dine and Dash is a highlight, but I don't really see a lot beyond that. So let us know what you think anyway, and I'll see you in the next one.